Welcome in. Belly up, have a seat, and grab a drink as we talk some Wingman Fantasy Football. Welcome into another edition of Wingman Fantasy Football, the League Podcast. I am your host, Michael Furley, and as always, I'd like to thank all of you, or any of you who may be watching or listening to today's show. This is episode 75, Week 13 Rewind. And before we get any further along, let's make sure that everybody is in the room.
Wingmen assemble!
All right, now that everyone is here, let me start off by, of course, apologizing once again for getting this one out a day late. Like I said, my work schedule is crazy, and even this one, I'm recording it late overnight or early in the morning to get this one out so I'm not 2 days behind. All right, in this episode, we will go over the game rewinds. We'll take a gander at the Goosometer, check in on our trade watch. We've got one more installment of Mike Rant. We will check in on the updated standings. But before we do that, let's check in on the theme for Week 13. And Week 13 was the week of bomb touchdowns for our receivers, as we had 5 receivers get touchdowns of 70 or more yards, as Tyreek Hill had a 78-yard touchdown, Jamar Chase had a 76-yard touchdown, Mike Evans had a 75-yard touchdown, DK Metcalf had a 73-yard touchdown on the bench, and Puka Nacua had a 70-yard touchdown. All right, guys, with that being said, let's check in on our Week 13 Rewind.
Let's go back! Week 13 Rewind.
All right, let's get right into the games. And our first one was a doozy, as we had a matchup of our top 2 teams, our 1 and 2 seed, and they were both tied going into Week 13 at 8 and 4, as this was Michael's Amazin Spidey up against Paul's Q-Bert Rage. And Amazin Spidey was able to take this one down as he defeated Paul's Q-Bert Rage 116.5 to 93.18. This was a battle for the number 1 seed going towards the playoffs. All right, let's find out how Amazin Spidey got his points this week. He had Derrick Henry get 24.5 points.
He's on fire!
He also had Puka Nacua get 21.9 points.
Hakuna Matata.
Also, he had his best player, Christian McCaffrey, keep chugging along, getting 20.8 points. And the Miami defense did it once again, getting double digits at 10 points.
He's heating up!
Amazin Spidey had no duds this week, but he did have some strong players that he left on his bench, as Nico Collins had 29.6 points on the bench.
He's on fire!
He also had Brock Purdy, who's very Purdy, getting 29.46 points, albeit on the bench. As for injuries for Amazin Spidey, he had a couple players get knocked out during the Sunday's game, as he had Puka Nacua leave with a shoulder injury, but he was able to return, and Derrick Henry left with a head/concussion injury, although he has been ruled to not have the concussion now. So we'll see what the status for these guys going forward is. I would say they're questionable right now with a strong chance of playing, but they will be banged up. All right, let's check in on Paul's Q-Bert Rage, as he had 3 players make his top performer list, as Mike Evans keeps chugging along, getting 25.7 points. And Sam Howell's also riding that train, getting 21.18 points. And Rashad White also is a train rider, chugging along, getting 18.1 points. Unfortunately, he did have one dud, as Tank Dell got 0 points. He had one super strong player left on his bench, as DK Metcalf had 34.4 points on Thursday night, and that was an omen that Q-Bert Rage might have a bad week, as he left his highest scoring player on his bench. As for injuries, he had Tank Dell suffer a broken leg and or ankle, and he's going to be out for the rest of the year.
Oh, no!
I feel a little bad ever since I added the Frank the Tank sound. We only got to use it for 1 week, so I'm going to do it one more time as a pour out a cup for Mr. Tank Dell. So here's one more Frank the Tank for you, sir.
Once it hits your lips, it's so good. You know it.
All right, on to our next game. We have Jimerson's RedSox Nation up against Reggie's Lionize, who is desperate for a win in his bid to make the playoffs, but he was not able to do it as RedSox Nation defeated Lionize 125.18 to 97.72. Red Sox Nation has now won 3 games in a row. All right, let's see how Red Sox Nation got to this strong score of 125. He had Tyreek Hill get 30.2 points.
He's on fire!
He also had All You Need Is Jordan Love, who had 23.68 points, and he is chugging along on that train. He also had a streamer that he picked up this week, Mr. Trey McBride of Frankenstein.
Alive! It's alive! It's alive!
And Trey McBride had 18.9 points. And he also had Kyren Williams once again get 18.7 points.
He's on fire!
And his kicker, Brandon Aubrey of the Dallas Cowboys, chipped in with 15 points. He did have one dud as T. Higgins had 5.1 points on his first game back from a hamstring injury. And he did have a couple strong players on his bench as Gardner Minshew had 20.68 points on the bench. And the LA Chargers defense had 14 points as they were able to shut out Halle Berry, the quarterback for the Patriots. Or Bailey Zappi, not Halle Berry. Sorry, I get those two confused. They look very similar. Red Sox Nation did make it through the week without any major injuries. On to Lionize. Unfortunately, Lionize was the highest scoring loser this week.
You lose!
And after his 6-game winning streak, he has now lost 2 in a row. But let's see how his performers did this week, as he had Michael Pittman get 22 points even.
He's on fire!
And he had a nice streamer.
We'll cross the streams.
Excuse me, Egon. You said crossing the streams was bad.
As he picked up the Indianapolis Colts defense, and they were dominant, getting 16 points as they had back-to-back possessions with blocked punts. Also, he had Brandon Ayukin
Hadouken!
get 13.1 points. He did have a couple duds, however, as Jahmyr Gibbs had only 6.5 points, and Austin Eckler had 3.7 points. Unfortunately for Lionize, his Lions let him down, scoring less than 35 points. And although he had a decent game, this was the first time all year that Amon-Ra St. Brown scored under 13 points. And for Lionize, he had a lot of players on his bench with good scores, as he had 98.46 points on the bench. He had more points on his bench than he did in his starting lineup. And let's see which players he left out that had good games. As Joe Mixon had 26.7 points. Sam Laporta had 24.5 points on the bench.
He's heating up!
Matthew Stafford had 23.16 points on the bench.
He's heating up!
And Taysom Hill had 14.4 points on the bench. As for his injuries, he had Christian Kirk suffer a core muscle injury, and he's going to require surgery, and he's going to be out for the rest of the season.
Oh, no!
On to our next game. We have Corey's Mac Daddy 2s up against the slumping Katie's King George, and Mac Daddy 2s put one on her as he had 125.46 points to King George's 71.96 points. Mac Daddy 2s was the highest score of the week. He's now been the highest score in the league for 3 of the last 6 weeks and 2 of the last 3 weeks. So he is definitely playing very well lately. And this was the biggest blowout of the week at just over 53 points. Let's see what players helped Corey Mac Daddy 2 get to this win, as he had Deebo Samuel.
Who? Deebo!
Had 33.8 points, and he is heating up. Geno Smith rebounded after a couple of bad games, and he put him in his lineup to get 31.96 points. And CeeDee Lamb just keeps chugging along, getting 26.6 points. And he finally put Jerome Ford in his lineup when he did well, and he had 12.7 points. He made it through the week with no duds. He did have one strong bench player of his kicker, Evan McPherson, at 13 points. but he did have an injury as Ramondre Stevenson left the game early with an ankle sprain, and he's going to miss a couple of weeks at least.
Oh no!
Unfortunately for King George, she was the lowest scoring team of the week. And she has now lost, I believe it's 5 out of 6. It might be 4 out of 5. I think it's 5 out of 6. She is struggling on the way to the playoffs, as she's going to need to win this week to get in, but she has some help coming as Justin Jefferson will finally make his return, hopefully just in the nick of time. As for Katie's King George, she's been leaving strong quarterback play on her bench of C.J. Stroud, but due to the bye week for the Ravens, she had to play Stroud over Lamar Jackson, and unfortunately, Stroud had one of his only bad games of the year when she put him in his lineup. As for players she had that did well this week, she had Travis Etienne get 15.9 points. She did have a couple duds of Garrett Wilson had 6.5 points, and Adam Thielen only had 4.0 points. And she had a strong player left on her bench as James Conner dominated throughout the rain delays, getting 22.5 points. As for her team with injuries, she had Brian Robinson have a hamstring injury, and his status going forward is uncertain.
Oh no!
On to our next game. We have Alex's They Took Our Jobs up against Bernie's Team B.
I'm Cuban B. Yes, Cuban B.
And Alex's They Took Our Jobs was able to take this one down at 105.12 to 84.58. And They Took Our Jobs had strong performers of Alvin Kamara at 25.9 points.
He's on fire!
And of course, Jalen Hulu has live sports, keeps chugging along, getting 23.92 points. Also, Isaiah Pacheco had 19.8 points.
He's heating up!
He did have one dud, however, of Amari Cooper had 4.3 points. And he had one strong bench performer of Russell Wilson with 21.84 points. Unfortunately for his injuries, Amari Cooper, who is coming into the week with rib injuries, left the game early with a concussion.
Oh no!
As for Bernie's Team B, unfortunately, he has now lost 9 games in a row, and he is super cold. He is as cold as ice.
You're as cold as ice!
All right, he did have 4 players that made his top performer list, however, as he had DeAndre Hopkins get 16.4 points. A.J. Brown had 15.4 points. The Atlanta defense had 11 points. And kicker for Miami, Jason Sanders, had 10 points.
He's on fire!
He did have one dud, however, as you know who it is. It's Calvin Risky, had only 5.3 points. He did have one strong player that was left on his bench, as Zach Charbonnet had 16.4 points. Unfortunately, he did leave the game early with a knee injury, but it has been diagnosed as a knee bruise, and he may not miss any time at all, if not just 1 week.
Oh no!
On to our last game of the Week 13 slate. We have Nick's Waddle Away up against Ken's Tompa Brady, and Waddle Away defeated Tompa Brady 108.9 to 96.92. Let's see what strong. This is now 4 wins in a row for Waddle Away. All right, let's see what players made his top performer list, as it looks like he has 5 players make this list, as he had Devon the Man Achane get 23.8 points, Devontae Smith at 20.1 points.
He's heating up!
Tua Tagovailoa had a strong game of 19.2 points, and Tony Pollard had 15.8 points.
He's on fire!
And Cortland Sutton now had 14.7 points. Waddle Away had no duds this week, but he did have some super strong players left on his bench, as he keeps picking the wrong quarterback, as Dak Prescott had 28.26 points on the bench.
He's heating up!
And Christian Watson is becoming dominant lately at 24.1 points.
He's heating up!
Unfortunately, he did have an injury, as Christian Watson did injure his hamstring late in the game on, was it Sunday night? And we're not sure now if he's going to miss any time, but he's probably going to miss a week or 2.
Oh no!
On to Tompa Brady's team. His top performers this week was Jamar Chase at 26.4 points, Trevor Lawrence at 25.12 points.
He's on fire!
And Christian Olave has been very steady lately, as he's now chugging along on that train, getting 14.4 points. Unfortunately, he did have a dud of Marquise Doo-Doo Brown, got 0 points for the Goose. He did have one strong player left on his bench as Chuba Hubbard had 22.4 points.
He's heating up.
And he did have an injury as Trevor Lawrence left the game late on Monday night with an ankle injury. And right now, we're not sure if he's going to miss any time, but he's definitely going to be hobbled for the next couple of weeks.
Oh, no.
All right, with all the games in the books, let's check in on our Goose-O-meter.
I'm just goosing along.
All right, we are now up to 10 gooses. I didn't think we'd get that high, guys, but we had some new gooses this week as Tompa Brady had his second goose of the season with Marquise Brown getting a goose, and Q-Bert's Rage had a goose as Tank Dell left the game so early with an injury. So now we are up to 10 gooses for the entire year. I don't know what we're going to do if we get to 11 because, as you can see, my meter is maxed out. All right, guys, let's check in on our trade watch. Buy, sell.
Wingman Fantasy Football Trade Watch.
All right, guys, I know when I read out just numbers, it gets a little lost and a little hard to follow. So I'm going to try and simplify this a little bit, but we will start with just the players, what they've done so far. And just to remind you guys, Amazin Spidey received Davante Adams in a trade for Raheem Mostert from RedSox Nation. And since joining Amazin Spidey, Davante Adams has scored 5.4 points, 11.6 points, 17.7, and 9.8 for a total of 44.5 points. Davante Adams was on bye this week, but he's been the starting lineup all 4 times he's been available, and he has averaged 11.1 points for Amazin Spidey. On the other side of this deal, Raheem Mostert has scored 14.5 points, 9.8, 21.4, 11.6, equaling 57.3 points. However, he's only been started in 3 of those 4 games, and he is now averaging per start for RedSox Nation 12.0 points. So this differential is now under a point per start. On our other trade, we had Amazin Spidey receive Derrick Henry in exchange for Justin Herbert, who went to Tompa Brady. And for Derrick Henry, he has scored 17.7 points, 2.9 points, 4.9 points, 20.1 points, and 24.5 points for a total of 70.1 points since joining Amazin Spidey. And he's been started in, 4 of those 5 games. So now in his starts, Derrick Henry is averaging 16.8 points per start for Amazin Spidey. Very nice contributor going down the stretch here. As for Tompa Brady, he has, like I said, Justin Herbert, who has scored 7.14 points, 30.42, 25.7, 17.38, and 8.48. He has had 2 duds, 2 monster games, and 1 right in the middle. But Tompa Brady has made the right move, sitting him the last 2 weeks. So, and he's in his starts, he is averaging 21.1 points per start for Tompa Brady. All right, now we're going to get into the what if they did or did not make this trade. Let's get into our last game only. This is week 13, game 5 since the trade. Amazin Spidey with his new players. He played George Kittle and Derrick Henry, and those 2 combined for 33.3 points. If he did not make the trade, he would have played George Kittle and Raheem Mostert, and those 2 players would have equaled 20.4 points. So that means with the trade, Amazin Spidey got a bonus of 12.9 points. It did not affect his week 13 outcome as he won by 23.32 points. It just made his victory stronger. So he had the same result either way. But since his trade has been made, overall, Amazin Spidey is minus 10.46 points total, even with the 12.9 point pickup for this week. All right, as for RedSox Nation, this week he played Raheem Mostert, and if he didn't make the trade, I would assume he would have had Breece Hall in his lineup since he had him in the starting lineup during the week. And with the trade, he had 11.6 points from Mostert. Without the trade, he would have had 7.5 points from Breece Hall. So that means this week with the trade, he gained 4.1 points. He won by 27.46 points, so that point differential wouldn't have changed the outcome. He would have won either way. But overall now with the trade, he is minus 2.8 points. His outcomes during that 5 weeks is 3-2. It would have been the same no matter what. Amazin Spidey was 4-1 during those 5 games. Would be the same no matter what. On to our last team who made these trades. We have Tompa Brady, and we actually finally have something that had a different outcome based on the trade. In week 13 here, the 5th week since the trade, Tompa Brady this week played Najee Harris. Who scored 8.7 points. If he would have kept Derrick Henry, he would have been in his lineup, of course, and Henry had 24.5 points. So this week, Tompa Brady lost 15.8 points this week in his score. For the entire season since the trade, he has now lost 13.7 points. So all 3 managers have made their teams worse per points. But this week was a little bit different, as Tompa Brady lost this week by 11.98 points, and he lost 15.8 points due to this trade. So if he would have kept Derrick Henry, he would have won this week and kept his playoff chances alive. So instead of being, he would be 3-2 instead of 2-3. No, he'd be 2-3 instead of 1-4 since making that trade. All right, guys, it is now time for another installment of a Mike Rant.
Baby Rant. Karen Rant.
I don't care whose fault it is. I'm going to tell you exactly what I think.
Mike Rant.
All right, the subject of this week's Mike Rant is the Yahoo Power Rankings. I love this segment. It's my favorite one because of the intro, but the Power Rankings are ridiculous, as it has RedSox Nation falling down towards the bottom of the Power Rankings, and he has had the top score the last 2 weeks. Well, actually, he was second this week by fractions of a point, but ever since his Power Rankings have been falling, his points have been going up. Waddle Away has been on the bottom of the Power Rankings since as far back as I can remember, and he has the longest active winning streak at 4 games. Just go to show you that unless it's projecting your season standings for Team B, the projections and Power Rankings mean nothing. I'm still going to play them because I like the sound and music, but take it with a grain of salt, guys. All right, guys, let's check in on the updated standings. Oh, we had some big-time movement here, guys, as we had Amazin Spidey stayed in number 1 with his defeat of Q-Bert's Rage, who is still in number 2. But RedSox Nation who is still in 3, actually. But this is where we had our biggest movement, as King George went from 4th down to 6th, while they took our jobs, moved from 5th to 4th. Waddle Away moved from 6th to 5th. And Mac Daddy 2s went from 8th to 7th, while Lion Eyes dropped from 7th to 8th. Just so you guys know, we have, unfortunately, with the loss for Tompa Brady, he is now out of the playoffs. He has been eliminated, and it is time to send him off. All right, Tompa Brady. I know it was an inconsistent year for you. Up and down until the end, where it was just down, down, down. I know you did your best. You tried to improve your team. I appreciate you making the trade, but your team just wasn't quite good enough to make it. Let's do another one of these. I think you had a playoff run of 2 consecutive years at least. Last year you had a great chance, but this year we ended a little early and a little short. Buck up, study hard, and you'll be back next year. I guarantee it. All right, guys. All right. This last week we have, what do we have? Let me look real quick. We've got, 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 5 teams battling for the last 2 playoff spots, as we had Q-Bert Rage and Amazin Spidey officially clinched, as did RedSox Nation. He has now clinched a playoff spot. So congratulations to the 3 of you guys who are going to be in the playoffs. Don't forget, only the top 5 teams make the playoffs. Yahoo says 6 teams, though, so 3 will play 6, and it'll be an automatic advance. So if you're in the 3-6 game, just set your lineups accordingly. And if I have to, I will make an adjustment to move players around to make sure that that 3 seed moves along. I don't want to give anyone zeros because I know you have your legacy stats. So I want to get you the most points you can possibly get, but I will ensure that you lose is in that 6th spot. All right, guys, with that being said, don't forget that you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, TuneIn Radio, and Google Podcasts for our audio versions of our podcast. Also, if you want to find our video feeds, go ahead to our channel at youtube.com/@wingmanfantasyfootball. Oh, I forget what it is. There it is. There it is. That youtube.com/@wingmanfantasyfootball. You can also find our videos and audio feeds on wingmanentertainment.net/podcast. And I've got some major news.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story. And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
All right, as you guys know, we're always trying to find out new things here. So on the Sunday episodes, it's one of my easier ones to actually record, but it's the hardest one to get out because I've got such a time crunch to get it uploaded and edited. So what we're going to do on Sundays at approximately 11:45, we are going to try our very first live stream. So I will send you a link. Just go to the YouTube homepage, and it should pop up right there. This will be the first time trying it, so we'll see what happens with that. But we're going to do live streams on Sunday at approximately 11:45. I will, of course, upload them later into the video section and on the audio section. But to get the information out in a timely manner, we will do it live. All right, guys. So don't forget, send in your comments or questions to wingmanentertainment.net or youtube.com/@wingmanfantasyfootball to get those comments or questions into our next mailbag segment. With that being said, guys, may your glasses be full, your mugs stay frosty, and we will see you next time.